So hello everyone, this is the first video with Power Platform with Sim. So in the first video I will want to talk about Power Automate. So this video is only for those who are just starting for Power Automate or even for those who wants to go back to the basics of Power Automate. So if you are someone who is getting started with Power Automate, I think from my perspective, these are the blocks that you must know before going deep into the Power Automate. So Power Automate, as you know, that you all will be using for automation purpose. If you have any process in your organization that you want to automate, for example, you want to automate an approval process, or you want to perform certain kind of automation on, you have a data set already, and you want to perform certain kind of operation on that data set, or you want to get something to get update automatically in your data set, or you are using Power App, Canvas app, or model driven app, and you want certain kind of changes to happen automatically or certain approvals to happen automatically without human intervention. So in that case, Automate comes into picture. So going ahead with Power Automate here, from my perspective, there are four building blocks that you should be aware about when proceeding with Power Automate. The first one is OData query. The second one is data operation actions. Third one is Power Automate expressions. And the fourth one is controls. So moving on, if I start talking about OData queries. So if your automate or your use case require you to work on a data set, OData query has to come into picture. This is something that allow you to perform certain kind of actions on server side itself, so that the data which you want comes in a limited amount, because most of the time whatever the use case you have, in most of the use case what happens that you don't need all the data in your automate or in your app. You just need certain fields, or you just need certain amount of records in your data to perform actions. So in those cases, fetching all the data or all the record from your data source doesn't seem to be a feasible solution, and it also makes the automate or the app slow. That's where the OData queries come into picture. So wherever you have data set, for example, you have a data source in Dataverse or SQL or SharePoint or any data source that you have. If it is referenced through API, then OData query is a very good means to handle the data set. You can bring the data based on certain filter, or you can bring certain columns, or you can decide to bring even you can decide to even expand. If there is a lookup column, you can also expand the lookup column, and so on. So that's where the OData queries comes into picture. Moving on next to data operation actions. So data operations actions are used when you are trying to manipulate your data. Now, most of the time what happens, the raw data which is there in a data set, you don't need it in the raw form. You want it to be seen in a certain way, or you want it in your automate to be in a particular way. That's where the data operation actions come in. Say you have a string and you do not want it to be be shown in a with hyphen or with dashes or with apostrophe. So you can just you can just bring the input into the compose action, and then from there you can manipulate it using Power Automate expressions. Or if you have an array of inputs from your data set, you can filter out that array based on certain conditions, and you can just have a limited amount of values that you need for your operations. So there are various data operation actions that we can see going forward. Now moving on to the third, that is Power Automate expressions. So when you are handling your data in your Power Automate, there might be certain conditions where maybe say you need just the lowercase of the string that you have in your data, or you want to replace the accented values in your data with non-accented values, or you just want to do a concat in the string. So all these expressions, these are just few examples of the expressions that you can use in your Power Automate to show your data or to manipulate data however you need it. Now moving on to the fourth one, that is controls. So provides provides you the means to run the same operation on a number of data for a number of times. For example, say you want to append to an array variable. You have a certain list of values. So if say for example you have 10 values, you don't need to perform the same operation 10 number of times. That's where the controls comes into picture. You can just put the input of that. For example, if you have apply for each action control, you can just put in the input of the apply for each control as the 10 number of values that you have, and you can just use one simple action append to array variable, and that will help you to it will run automatically 10 times for all those inputs and will append to the array variable accordingly. Similarly, if you have a condition, like if a condition satisfies, a set of operations should run, and if it doesn't, another set of operations should run. So that's where the controls comes into picture. So that's why when you are moving ahead with Power Automate, it's necessary to be acquainted with all these. So that's why when you are moving with Power Automate or you are trying to learn about Power Automates, it's necessary to be acquainted with all these four blocks. It makes your automate uh, also easier to handle, and it makes it lightweight, and it also helps you to understand how your automate should be. Thank you.